Avi Meyers, Northtown Neighborhood News Magazine. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks to my entire technical crew, Sonny Hersh. Check us out on the web, ntnm.org. Community policing, we're all big on that. Go to caps24.org for all the meetings in Rogers Park, West Rogers Park, a little bit of Edgewater, and forget the message boards. If they're very nice places to socialize, maybe they are, maybe they aren't, I wouldn't know. But if you really think the police read it, or if your message is getting through, or if you want the police to know that there's a problem with crime, or you want to communicate, with the people that count to get your problems fixed, come to your local CAPS meetings. It is a pleasure now to have. I get to meet so few publishers. It's just not that big a. There aren't a lot in the world, but anyway. I got a call from Ed McElroy. My guest, Todd Wessel, just came out with a book called The One and Only. He's the editor and publisher of the Journal Topics newspapers in the suburbs. I'm going to let him tell you about it. And Todd Wessel, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you very much for having me. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Tell us a little bit about the Journal Topics papers.
Well, the Journal and Topics newspapers were based in Des Plaines. We're 79 years old this year. And we're a group of 16 suburban newspapers that cover communities stretching from Glenview on the east up through Palatine, south through Elk Grove Village, into Rosemont, Des Plaines, Mount Prospect, Arlington Heights, Park Ridge, and Niles, and communities like that. It's all community news, all local news. So I've been in my position for a number of years.
No, I like that stuff. And we were talking earlier, by the way, I've been in ethnic and community stuff all my life. I did have a short stint, by the way, as the token white guy in the Daily Defender. but I'm serious. But other than that, for the most part, I'm really into, I just think community is great stuff. I mean, people don't realize how vibrant communities are and how important so many of the things that go on in communities are. Mm-hmm. So, okay, you've been putting out the newspaper, and I guess at some point you had this. Is this your first book?
That's my first book, and it's probably my last book. It was a big, big job, but it was a real labor of love. And it took me a long time to put it together, but I'm really happy with it.
Yeah, I always told myself that when I was 40, it'd be the right time to write a book, and I don't know that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, well, you're not yet 40, right?
Oh, yeah, right. Thank you. Flattery will get you everywhere. You're invited on the next show, too. So tell us about the book.
Well, the subject of the book, Charles W. Chic Harley, he was my great uncle. He was born in Chicago, and at age 12, the Harley family moved to Columbus, Ohio, and there Chic became more and more involved in school and in athletics, to the point where he developed into this super athlete that excelled in everything. In high school, at East High School in Columbus, Ohio, he played varsity football for 3 years. He scored 269 points as a player.
Wow.
Quarterback. He could pass, run. He did all the kicking, punt returning, and on defense he played safety. He was a phenomenal player, but he was a small guy. In high school he was about 5'6", 135, 140 pounds. And when it came time to whether or not to go to college, his family had moved back to Chicago because his father worked in the newspaper business as a linotype operator, and he went where all the jobs were.
So you've definitely got ink in the bloodstream of your family.
I think that's where it may have all started. And I did not know that until I got into the book. But Chic remained in Columbus, and he was confused about what he should do. And he literally was on the train headed for Ann Arbor, Michigan, when the sports editor of the Columbus Dispatch yanked him off the train and said, "You're not going anywhere. You're staying here in Columbus, and you're going to enroll at Ohio State." And eventually he did, and he became Ohio State's first team All-American.
Wow.
He became Ohio State's first 3-time All-American in football.
Wow.
4-sport letterman, and he just excelled like you wouldn't believe. And he set records for most points scored in a career, 201 points in 3 years.
Wow.
And that was not broken until 36 years later when Hopalong Cassidy broke it for the Buckeyes.
Yeah, I've heard that name.
Yes.
That was Bill Hopalong Cassidy. That was he was a famous player.
Yes, he was. He was a Heisman Trophy winner. And what happened is after Ohio State, oh, by the way, in his 3 years on varsity at Ohio State, he only lost one game, and it was his very last game against Illinois, in which Illinois scored a field goal with 8 seconds left in the game, and Chic blamed himself for the loss and took it very hard.
Wow.
What happened was afterwards, in 1921, George Halas was looking for a marquee player to fill out the roster for the Decatur Staleys, which he was given control over. And the best player in the country at that time was Chic Harley.
Wow.
And so George Halas and his partner, Dutch Sterneman, they both went to the University of Illinois. They, with a lot of effort and hard work, managed to recruit Chic, who didn't want to play pro ball, but he relented when his brother Bill Harley convinced him to do so. And Chic played 1 year for the Staleys. During that year, in the fourth or fifth game, he suffered a terrible injury, 3 broken ribs. And what happened was that later the Harley family, Bill Harley in particular, contended that Halas wanted to get rid of Chic. So he ordered the offensive line, to break down and allow Chic to be game tackled, which resulted in these bad injuries. The reason that Bill Harley and the Harley family felt that way is because in order to recruit Chic, Halas and Sterneman had to bring on 2 partners who would share in the proceeds, and those 2 partners were the Harley brothers, Chic Harley and Bill Harley. So the 4 of them basically owned the team in 1921. They moved the team from Decatur to Chicago, and lo and behold, you had a big market up here, and they were making some good money. And whether or not it's true or not, the fact of the matter is that Chic Harley was pretty much done as a player, although he finished out the season, but he became very much of a tragic figure when, within 2 weeks after his last game, he was institutionalized in a sanitarium.
Oh.
And for the rest of his life, for the 52 years of the rest of his life, he was in and out of sanitariums and mental hospitals. And what happened was that he, from 1938 to his death in 1974, he lived at the Veterans Administration Hospital in Danville, Illinois. But what happened, and so he was getting all these offers to coach for the University of Tennessee and Kansas to take over their program. He could have been very wealthy. He could have led a very happy life. He was going to marry his sweetheart in Columbus, but it never was meant to be. And so his life became one of tragedy and missed opportunities. But what happened is over the years, he became better. He improved with the new medicines, and in 1948 he was much better, and through insulin shock therapy at that time, where he got insulin injections, and Ohio State University decided to ask him back. And they held a ticker tape parade for him in 1948. 100,000 people showed up, and it was a very triumphant return for him. But over time, he sort of regressed, and he lived out the rest of his days somewhat of an invalid. But I got to know him very well because he would take the train from Danville up to Des Plaines, Illinois, frequently, and visit and stay with his sister, Ruth Wessel, my grandmother.
Yeah.
And so I knew him very well as a boy and a teenager, and what happened was eventually they were going to name the stadium after him, the Horseshoe Stadium of Ohio State. They were going to do that, but they forgot about him, and that's the reason for the book. We wanted to make sure that the sports world, in particular Ohio State University and the Big Ten communities and schools, would never forget about him. So I wrote the book. It was my father's dream to do so, but he never did it. So I promised him that I would do it if he couldn't. And so now the focus is on promoting the book and raising money to erect a statue of Chic in front of the stadium. And the university, the big hurdle is getting the university to agree to it, but they seem to be open to the idea. So we're working on that now.
Wow. Well, that I want to wish you that's some story. Now I got to really read the book. I just glanced through it to interview. Your daughter just dropped it off a couple days ago, so
it's a real interesting book. The first part is about, his youth and where the family came from, and his playing days in which he was a triple threat. He could run, pass. He did all the kicking. The guy was unbelievable. I heard all these stories when I was a kid, but I never really appreciated it until I started doing this research. And he was phenomenal. But what made him such a unique person, an athlete, was his personality. Even though he was extremely great, and most people felt that he would have won one, maybe two Heisman trophies. But he played 16 years before the Heisman Trophy was invented.
That's a problem.
But he was an unbelievably modest, quiet, bashful introvert. And that's why people loved him so. He never bragged. He never boasted. I could rarely get him into engaged in a conversation.
Yeah, today's athlete, my favorite athletes these days are the four-legged kind because they have better manners than the two-legged kind. But wow, that's some story. The One and Only, authored by Todd Wessell, and the story of Chic Harley. And that is some story. You know what? Especially when I hear you talk so passionately about it, it makes me really want to read the book and experience that. And of course, you're also in your spare time, the editor and publisher of the Journal Topics newspapers. 16 of them out in the northern suburbs and all that. We want to wish you very much luck with your endeavor. And if people want to contact you,
well, they can contact me through our website. We've set up a website for the book. It's www.chicharley, CHIC, Harley, HARLEY.com. And that's a great website that has anything you need to know about the book and how to order it. And I write a weekly blog on it, so it's got some neat information in there.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Okay, Avi, thank you.
My pleasure.